different reform issues, and one of them is related to districts that have emergency financial managers. So if a district is in a financial emergency, the odds are that it is also facing an academic emergency, right? I mean, isn't that large? You know, if there's a serious financial emergency, you might have been losing pupils. There probably is an academic emergency too. And there is no district that is in as much of a crisis as Detroit at this moment. It is unacceptable, and I hope you feel this deep inside. It is unacceptable that most of Detroit's 4th and 8th graders were unable to score at a basic math level on the NAEP test this year. It is unacceptable. It made for the lowest performance in the history of the National Assessment of Education Progress. The lowest in the history. It is unacceptable that almost none of the 4th or 8th grade students were able to score at the advanced level. Almost none. It's unacceptable that only 3% of 4th graders and 4% of 8th graders were proficient in math. Can you imagine? 3% or 4%. It's unacceptable that nearly half of the kids in DPS do not graduate on time. Now, my guess is that no one in this room would send their child to a school or a district with that performance. Parents in Detroit should not be forced to send their kids to schools like that either. If it happened in your community, people would be up in arms. They would leave in droves. And many of those who have the means to leave the Detroit public school system have done so, contributing to the financial problems that the district is facing. And yet, there are still some who are fighting to maintain the status quo. Incredible though it is, there are adults who look at the system and who may have benefited from the system and who are trying to stop the very difficult but necessary reforms and changes that the emergency financial manager is trying to achieve, Robert Bob. There was a court decision on Friday that will be appealed on this subject, but to be sure, a district's finances and their academics are inextricably bound, and our system in Michigan, because it is based on a pure per pupil funding arrangement, and parents can pull their kids out of academically challenged districts, it negatively affects the finances. It's as basic as can be. The system in Detroit is broken. So the problem has to be fixed one way or the other, either through the courts or asking the legislature to give the mayor control over the district because it is so challenged. There is no reason why we as adults have to protect the status quo when the status quo is not working. Now, I talk about Detroit because that's in the top of the news. But no doubt there are other districts that are facing similar challenges where we need to think out of the box in order to solve the problems of the kids and not respond to the adults only. High school curriculum that we adopted. To me, this is a civil rights issue too. Because every single child in the state of Michigan, no matter where they live, now has to meet those high standards. And you'll see, as we have learned from the MME, the scores that came out, the African American kids improved in 5 out of the 6 categories. Hispanic kids improved in all 6 categories. When you have high standards and you have the means and the measures and the strategies to get these kids over, then they can do it. I don't want to hear anybody say that we should dumb down the curriculum in certain areas because kids can't learn there. That is just not true. true. We adults need to bend to be able to lift them, not lift them in a way of a handout or something like that, or dumbing down, but help provide the strategies that will cause them to learn. Because we have seen models all over the country where the kids in the most challenged circumstances have been successful, and we will not accept less for our kids in Michigan either, no matter where they are from, especially when they're from areas that are challenged.